One win away from doing exactly what they did over a couple of years ago. The Blue Jays are one win away from winning the World Series for the third time in franchise history. Meanwhile, on the ice, new coach in Dan Muse, and the Penguins are off to a good start. Also on the other side of the ice, the women's hockey 2025-2026 countdown continues. It's Halloween tomorrow at the time of our recording, which means it's time for the Weekly in Sports Halloween Madness Extravaganza. Welcome to our spooky sports edition of Weekly in Sports end of the month October program. I'm Scott McGregor. Let's get started.
Welcome to What's Happening in the Sports World Today, hosted by your host of the Sports for Beginners podcast, Scott McGregor. Today, Scott has some exciting news for all of you listening today. I wonder what it could be, so let's find out and join Scott in the studio now.
Good afternoon, everybody, on this Thursday, October 30th, 2025. It is 2:24 p.m. Eastern Time as we begin our recording here. Getting ready for the Penguins and the Wild tonight from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Due to commitments, though, I will not be giving you a Penguins post-game show on the ice and behind the benches for the Minnesota game between the Wild and the Penguins, as I will be gearing up for Game 6 of the World Series between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Los Angeles Dodgers. And that is where we are going to lead off our Weekly in Sports October program, as it is our next edition of the show. But a friendly reminder to anyone who flags our episodes, especially those content creators, we appreciate your concern. We also would like to let everyone know that if we have to act and add any description for any music that we use, for any reason, or any clips that we use, we will not hesitate to do so in our description. Now, we would normally play some music like Halloween music, but because we don't have rights to do so, we will refrain from doing so. Final score of the Blue Jays game, which we'll talk about in just a few seconds as we lead it off with that news. Blue Jays 6, Dodgers 1 in game 5 of the World Series. We will talk about that in just a few minutes, but kicking off the overview as we will kick off with the Blue Jay news, we want to remind you also that the PWHL 2026-2025 regular season countdown is officially underway, and it will kick into overdrive after exhibition season is over. We will talk about that in the second half of our show. I'll give you a couple of the games I am looking forward to seeing. Maybe not seeing, but at least looking at in our out-of-town scoreboard for the PWHL. We'll talk about that again in the second half. Baseball will be our leadoff of this show. We'll get to it in a second. But also, I will provide some thoughts as the Bills get ready to head into a big game against the Chiefs. And it is important to note here as we go over the show overview that the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, for the regular season, the Bills are 4-0 when Josh Allen is at the helm. I should say they are 4-1, excuse me. Patrick Mahomes, however, leading the way with the Chiefs in the playoffs with 4 wins and 4 Buffalo losses. 4 Buffalo losses, 4 wins for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. You will be getting on Monday, you will be getting a Bills post-game show following Mahomes versus Allen. We haven't had a chance to do that for the previous games before the bye against the Falcons, and then, of course, against the Panthers, which the Bills won that game. You'll get the final score of that as we close out the show. As this is our Halloween themed show, during parts of the show when we are mostly in a commercial break, you will hear shout outs of the week, or shout outs rather, from our good friend Ali Musa of Broadcast Map. And for those who don't know yet, the Broadcast Map show used to be a podcast, and it actually still is a podcast. It's just called the Broadcast Map Show instead of Broadcast Map the podcast. And of course, that is because Ali, along with Sienna and many other people that he is associated with, including McGregor, have launched the Broadcast Map Network, which a podcast that Ali and McGregor do called Ali and McGregor's Books is a part of. All right, you'll hear Ali and his voice messages over the course of the program during the breaks, but we'll also give out our shout outs of the month as shout outs of the week, as I like to call them. If you would like to get in on the action, all you need to do on our Discord server or our WhatsApp chat, which is currently being run with the Sports for Beginners WhatsApp network group chat. And of course, our Sports for Beginners Facebook page is running that as well. All you have to do if you want to get involved on this prior to an end of the month show, all you have to do is send an email to Sports for Beginners podcast 8231@gmail.com using the subject shoutouts of the month with a podcast recommendation for me to check out, or for us to check out rather, or a podcast recommendation that you enjoy listening to and we will shout out. But that's coming before we get to the closing moments of the show, which will entitle with our PWHL news coming up later and my thoughts on the Bills season heading in to their big game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Without further ado, let's get this show Halloween themed up, leading off with the biggest news in baseball. Trey Yesavage, the 22-year-old Trey Yesavage, if you could believe that. Yeah, guess what? He made some big history in last night's 6-1 win in Game 5 of the Fall Classic, the World Series, in the last game down in LA at Dodger Stadium. Before we get down to takeaways, actually let's go ahead and share the screen and read the takeaways from Game 5, which will lead into Game 6. Without any question, rather, is Trey Yesavage. One of the biggest takeaways is Yesavage. AJ Savali and Martin Gallios. AJ, if I pronounce your last name wrong, I obviously did there based on how it was called, but that's okay. And Martin G, if I pronounced the names wrong, I apologize. But you guys had a pretty good story here that was posted on MLB about 1:18 in the morning Eastern Time. Trey Yesavage has shifted the momentum of the 2025 World Series massively in favor of the Blue Jays with his brilliant 12 strikeout performance in Wednesday's 6-5 Game 5 win, bringing them just one win away from a championship. Meanwhile, the Dodgers are on the ropes heading back to Toronto down 3-2 in the series before Game 6 on Friday. Here are 3 takeaways from Dodger Stadium. Well, I guess the first takeaway would be the rotation. Blue Jays have made LA's rotation look mortal now for their biggest challenge. 3 pitches into Game 5, the Blue Jays had a 2-0 lead, with Davis Schneider leading off the game with a first pitch homer off Blake Snell. On the first pitch he sees, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. followed suit 2 pitches later. To be more current, it was actually 2 pitches later because the next pitch after Davis went yard got into account for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And then he followed up suit with the next pitch that he would see from Blake Snell to bring out the first back-to-back homers to ever start a World Series game. Blue Jays manager John Schneider said, quote, "That was the approach going in to be ready to hit." It was the latest example of the Toronto offense making a high-level starting pitcher look human. They've done it to Snell, who allowed 5 runs over 6 2/3 innings on Wednesday. They've done it to Shohei Ohtani, Tyler Glasnow, Max Fried, Carlos Rondon, and the entire very good Mariners rotation. The next takeaway out of the game was Vlad just 2 home runs behind Arozarena for most home runs in a single postseason. Needless to say, they are a great lineup. Starting pitcher for game number 6, Yoshibo Yamamoto said, though through interpreter I should say, but he said, in continuing quote, he said, "I'm just going to get myself ready as best as possible." Of course, Yamamoto has been the best starter of the entire postseason, coming off a pair of complete games, including a gem in Game 2 at Rogers Center, where he will face, once again, number 34 of the Toronto Blue Jays, Kevin Gausman, who is ready for electric Game 6 at home. If the Blue Jays can solve Yamamoto, or at least make him work and chase him early, they might be rewarded with their first World Series title in 32 years. As we've seen, however, that's so much easier said than done. Another takeaway there, Yesavage, the rookie. The rookie that I talked about off the top, Trey Yesavage, has that dog in him. It was fair to feel like a bit of an Angus about Yesavage taking the mound for the Blue Jays in Game 5. He went just 4 innings in a shaky Game 1 start, and that one came in the comforts of Rogers Center. This time around, he was walking into the hostile territory of Dodger Stadium. But unlike that Game 1 outing, where Yesavage practically abandoned his usual nasty splitter, the right-hander had everything working on Wednesday. His lethal slider-splitter combo resulted in 12 strikeouts with 20. It was the most strikeouts for a rookie pitcher in a World Series game and the most by any pitcher without allowing a walk. John Schneider said on Trey's performance, "Historic stuff when you talk about that stage and his numbers. Slider and splitter were and a few hours later he'd completed one of the most impressive starts by a young pitcher in World Series history." The 22-year-old Yesavage was already looking forward. "Mentally, I'll be prepared for Game 6, he said. But I mean, I'm just ready for whatever's next, if there is a next." Time to find out what Dodgers are made of. For the first time this postseason, the Dodgers' backs are against the wall. They're facing elimination on Friday in Toronto, and they do so with a lifeless offense that has scored just 3 runs in 18 innings over the last 2 games, not to mention only 1 run across 9 extra inning games in Game 3. With Yamamoto for Game 6 and potentially Glasnow with a dose of Ohtani in Game 7, the Dodgers on paper have the pitching advantage. That might not matter if their offense doesn't wake up. Ohtani could make his first MLB relief appearance in Toronto. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts said, we've just got to come in fresh. We've been in elimination games. A core group of these guys. We got to find a way to win a game. That's it." He doesn't say just. He says, "We got to find a way to win a game. That's it." And that's technically what the Blue Jays have to do in Friday's game if they want to win their first World Series title in 32 years. Two games technically, but Roberts is right. They have done it before. The defining moment of the Dodgers World Series run last year came when they trailed the Padres 2-1 in the NL Division Series. They responded with an emphatic Game 4 victory in a hostile environment in San Diego before winning Game 5 in Los Angeles. Does this team have a similar response in it? If so, the Dodgers will have to do it on the road twice this time, and those are people who cover the Padres and the A's who covered that story. But ladies and gentlemen, I think the big story of Game 5 was rookie Yesavage breaking records in historic outing. 12 over 7 innings in World Series Game 5 on Wednesday at Dodger Stadium, setting the all-time rookie record for strikeouts in a Fall Classic game, once held by Don Newcombe of the 1949 Brooklyn Dodgers. Moving on, he was a part of the Dodgers who were named Brooklyn Dodgers 1949, and he held the record for the most strikeouts all time as a rookie in a Fall Classic game. But now it's Trey Yesavage. Yesavage has placed his name among some of the game's greats with a postseason performance for the ages, while leading the Blue Jays to a 6-1 win over the Dodgers and a 3-2 lead in the Fall Classic. He also became just the second pitcher in World Series history with 10 or more strikeouts through the first 5 innings, the Dodgers' very own Sandy Koufax, who did it in Game 1 of the 1963 World Series. Yesavage is also the first pitcher in MLB history to do that twice within the same postseason. Yesavage said, quote, at the end of the game, and when he was even speaking post-game, both to Fox and to Hazel May of Sportsnet, it's a crazy world, crazy world. Hollywood couldn't have made it this good. Well, yeah, it is a crazy world. And yeah, I agree with you, Trey. Hollywood couldn't have made it this good. The 22-year-old rookie has already cemented himself as a star in Toronto. He's shot through this organization like a comet. I gotta agree with you there, Keegan. He certainly has. From single A Dunedin in April to Game 5 of the World Series on October 29th. 6 months ago, he was in A-ball. A few months later, before he came up to the major leagues at the end of the season, he went to by the way, he also played with the Florida State League and the Dunedin Blue Jays. When he came up to Double A, he was playing with the Blue Jays team at New Hampshire Fisher Cats. And just before the season ended, he was in Triple A playing with the Buffalo Bisons. And before the season ends, the Blue Jays make the call and they say Trey's coming up to the bigs. And the dude has done everything that I have wanted as a Blue Jay fan myself. The minute he first came up, I wanted him to meet the moment, and he certainly has. The dude has had a year to remember in 2025. His first start came against the Tampa Bay Rays in the regular season in a ballpark that's not even a major league ballpark. This was a this was a spring training field, and Trey Yesavage met the moment. The next start was against Kansas City, major league ballpark, but he met the moment. Despite some shaky starts in those outings. He had some shaky starts in the playoffs against the Mariners, but he came back and just put those shaky starts to rest and just kept being himself. And he was on another level every start he had. Yeah, there have been some shaky starts, especially Game 1 of the World Series, but this start here, his second start in this series, and it's in game 5, and he came dealing not like a 22-year-old. He was playing like he was 30 years old or something like that. Maybe 45 years old, to be honest. He was not the 22-year-old rookie that we see before us. He was dealing. 3 big takeaways from this game and what to expect in game 6. This from the Blue Jays side of things, from Keegan Matheson. The image of Shohei Ohtani struck out by Yesavage in the 3rd inning of Game 5 should follow Yesavage for the rest of his career. If the Blue Jays go on to win the World Series back home at Rogers Center, it will be one of the defining images of the series. Yesavage has allowed a home run to Kike Hernandez earlier in the frame, but he set up Ohtani with a slider to get the Japanese superstar into a 2-2 count with 2 outs. That's when he gave Ohtani one of his best splitters of the night. And that started over the heart of the plate, but tallied and tumbled away from Ohtani. Even Ohtani, the man who reached base 9 times in the 18-inning Game 3 game, which the Dodgers would end up winning 6-5 in a grueling marathon of an 18-inning game. Basically 2 games in one, if you think about it. Because if that game goes to the 19th inning, you've already played Game 3 and Game 4 in one night. But anyways, moving on, and has threatened to wreck this series entirely, was left to flail at empty air. The box score will read strikeout swinging, but that's too kind of a description of what Yesavage did to Ohtani. The swing brought Ohtani down to one knee, and as that back left knee slammed into the dirt, his helmet came tumbling off, as you can see in the image here. Just another piece of Ohtani trying to chase a pitch that was never there. By the time Yesavage bounced off the mound, Ohtani was picking up his belongings in the other batter's box. Trey Yesavage, manager John Schneider, just shook his head and laughed. He was, quote, blown away by what he just seen from Yesavage. The kid who has shocked, I want to quote that there, the kid that has shocked everyone, even those in the organization. Blue Jays bullpen has done it all versus Dodgers. Save, and he saves. Thinking back to when we called him up, you're kind of taking a shot just to bring more talent in, and you're not really sure of how it's going to unfold or what role he's going to be in, Schneider said, but he also added, I said it before the game, man, but the regular season's going to be pretty normal for him now. He's definitely raised our ceiling. I mean, we're talking about a guy that not only is he performing well, but he's handling a lot of well. Yesavage represents everything that has gone right for the Blue Jays. He's the upside they've been chasing. He's the homegrown talent with ace caliber that they've needed for so long. He's one of the greatest development success stories the Blue Jays have ever had. Schneider leads back-to-back barrage, and Dad filmed the family's reaction. Yes, that's right. Davis Schneider led off the game with a first pitch dinger, and then after one pitch to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the very next pitch that Vladdy saw was a thank you very much, and it's 2-0 Blue Jays, or as the old 2-9er of Pittsburgh would say, it's 2-0 good guys. To quote the old 2-9er Phil Borg, looking forward to the call later this evening when the Penguins take on the Wild. Anyways, Yesavage said, quote, talking about this next takeaway, he said, I gave everything I had for this team, for this organization, and they did the same back. I'm so grateful to be in this situation. I gave everything to the fans. I gave everything to Canada, and all of the stops I made along the way. I'm so blessed to be in this position. Yesavage forced 23 whiffs from the Dodgers in Game 5, the most any pitcher in the World Series since pitch tracking began in 2008. The 12 strikeouts were also the most by a pitcher in World Series history while issuing 0 walks. Throw Yesavage's age out the window by every measure. And I want to go back right now to the quote there from John Schneider, being blown away by what Trey has done. Thinking back to when we called him up, you're kind of taking a shot to just bring more talent in, and you're not really sure how it's going to unfold or what role he's going to be in. I said it before the game, man, but the regular season's going to be pretty normal for him now. He's definitely raised our ceiling. I mean, we're talking about a guy that not only is he performing well, but he's handling a lot of stuff well. I mean, you talk about a guy who started in A ball, went to Double A, went to Triple A. By the end of the year, just by late September, pretty much, Trey was in the organization and on the big club by that time. What hasn't Trey done that's not impressed you? What hasn't Trey Yesavage done to impress you? What a performance by Trey Yesavage. We could go on and on and on, but you know what? All credit to the MLB here. Let's take a listen before we go to our first break of the show, as our leadoff segment concludes here. Let's take a listen to the MLB Network interview on MLB Tonight with the man himself, the man of the hour, Trey Yesavage, who was, I believe that is him, and he's on with the MLB Tonight. Maybe that's not him, but we will hear what they have regardless. But as you can see at the start of our video, we got postseason comparison between Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in 2025 to former Blue Jay, a part of that 1993 World Series team, and was the World Series MVP that year, Paul Molitor. Paul, if I pronounce your last name wrong, my sincerest apologies. But look at this comparison before we begin the audio here. In 1993, this guy Paul played 12 games, had an average of .447, scored 17 runs, had an OPS 1,378, only struck out 3 times and walked 6 times. X burst XBH, 10 of those for him. But look at Vladdy, extra base hits, I believe, that is. 16 games here in the postseason for Vladdy. An average of .415, 17 runs, 11 extra base hits. Vladdy has only struck out 5 times in this postseason and walked 12. His on-base percentage, 1,337. Wow. When you compare that to what the on-base percentage was by Paul in 1993, I'd say Paul has a bit of the advantage here. Let's hear the MLB Tonight crew as they will take us to break, and all credit to MLB, as I will provide in our description of the episode. Here is what MLB Tonight had on Yesavage and on the panel in LA.
And I'll tell you another guy who's going to get some consideration if things continue to go for the Toronto Blue Jays the way they've gone here the last couple of nights. Trey Yesavage joining us on the postgame show. Only 12 tonight, huh?
I was hoping for 13.
Way to go, man. Congratulations. It's been said about you so much, the big moment doesn't get to you at all. First road postseason start this year. How different did it feel, and how did it feel on the mound?
I mean, it almost felt a little bit better to do it in front of their fans. It was so much fun to be out there and just work.
You talk about go to work. The split was there tonight. You still leaned heavy on the slider. Just talk me through mindset coming in, bullpen session. Did you have a better feel for the split tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. Going to this game, I was all about getting ahead, getting my counts, and throwing what I wanted in 2 strike counts. So we worked on that in the bullpen, and I mean,
getting a lead early too allowed you to go to work, be aggressive in the zone.
Absolutely. Lead off home runs to start the game. I mean, we set the tone and carried that the rest of the way out.
Trey, how much fun is this, man? I mean, like, Look at these guys.
I mean, all these Toronto fans, these Blue Jays fans in Los Angeles, these people are awesome.
Yeah, man.
There's some Pennsylvania people here too, and your old man is fun to watch in the stands. He lives and dies with every pitch.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. I love going back and seeing him on Instagram. I don't know. I'm so happy they could be here.
I know you had a big night, obviously, with the strikeouts, but I think the play of the game was that mound visit. Take us through that mound visit. Take us through, obviously, the Oscar Hernandez infield single, and then afterwards, kind of Kirk feeling you out and feeling the moment. The fans were kind of getting into it as well. And then it's just like, no, wait, we're going to extinguish this fire. What was said on that mound?
Yeah, Kirky just came out to slow me down, allow me to take a little bit of a breather, and just get back in control of the game. He told me that I got this, and just be myself, and that's what I did.
I want to talk to you about just the starts leading up to tonight and tonight's start. You made starts versus the New York Yankees, Aaron Judge, Stanton, Kyle Raleigh in the ALCS now, Shohei, Mookie, Freddie, and you've handled it all with grace and dominating. What would you say to another young guy? I mean, I can't imagine you saw this coming on the horizon when you're in Dunedin. What would you say has allowed you mindset-wise to succeed in these outings?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just another righty or another lefty in the box. So you can worry about names all you want, but that's only going to hurt you. And, I mean, just go out there and do your game.
I got one more for you before I let you yonder. Game 7 comes around. Any chance we see you available? Do you feel like you could be?
Mentally, I'll be available for Game 6.
Mentally, okay, I see you. Take me through just the process of getting ready for this start. When did you find it? When did you say, okay, I got something? It could be during long toss or maybe even the bullpen that you threw the day before. Was it that feel, or when did you find that?
Yeah, I mean, I showed the field yesterday. Catch play felt sharp. And then today, when I was warming up in the outfield, I mean, everything felt on, felt connected, felt great this entire day.
You've played baseball your entire life. You just are pretty new to this club. We talk about it being a ball club. I want to hear from your words. What have you walked into as far as we talk a lot about chemistry and togetherness? You guys seem to have that. Just talk about the culture you walked into.
Yeah, I mean, this culture has been built around player relations first, allowing us to be teammates and then go out here and play ball. So being a well-connected team and just playing the game freely allows us to win a lot of ball games.
Charter's going to be pretty fun going back to Toronto tonight, I would imagine.
But yeah.
You boys are
It's going to be a long flight, but we're going to have fun on it.
Way to go, man. Congratulations, Trey. Good luck the rest of the series.
Happy flight, baby.
Thank you.
There you go. There's Trey Yesavage. He did indeed join the MLB Tonight crew post-game after the game. And you heard everything that he said there. What a night for Yesavage. What a night in baseball. We were going to see a guy come onto the scene and absolutely blow out the other side. I would have thought you were crazy. If you would have told me it would be a 22-year-old, I would have thought it would have been crazy. We're going to take a break. When we come back, shout-outs of the month, and we'll keep the Halloween party going here. I'll give you some of my top 3 Halloween favorite music, and I'll also provide you with we'll go 2 favorite Halloween movies. And they may not be scary, but sometimes the great Halloween movies don't have to be scary. Weekly in Sports Halloween October special continues right after this.
Good afternoon, Scott. I'm really enjoying the podcast as per usual, so please keep up the podcast. You've got a great thing going. Keep it going, please. My favorite traditions, I just like to follow sports, on Halloween. I don't typically have, I do like chocolate, but I'm not really big on the traditional Halloween side. Please feel free to play this on a future episode. We'll talk soon.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down. Nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, 2 powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our Halloween October special on Weekly in Sports. Thank you so much for being with us. I want to take this opportunity before we jump into the hockey side of things, as we're going to talk about the PWHL in just a few minutes. Before we go down to the ice, take a look at the upcoming games on the slate tonight at the time of our recording. By the time you hear this show, which might be on Friday or it might be on Saturday, whenever it is, depending on what happens with the World Series, the games at the time that we talk about it will be final by then. Reminder again to On the Ice and Behind the Benches listeners that once baseball season wraps up, perhaps you will get a Minnesota Wild Pittsburgh Penguins post-game show on Penguins Postgame. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to our Weekly in Sports website. What are you talking about, Scott? What are you talking about? What do you mean? We have brought ourselves a new website. Same way we did with Sports for Beginners' official website. But why don't we just take you in there so you can see what it looks like for yourself. It's not complete yet, but we're going to go ahead and take you inside the site itself. In fact, here's how to get to the main area. Let me just go ahead and share the screen as we introduce the website. There we go. As you can see, it's not quite finished yet, but this is exactly what it looks like. And I'm not sure why my camera is out of there, so let's try that again. I'll unshare the screen for a second, let things load up. But ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Weekly in Sports website. To access said website, just type into your browser the following website listed in the credentials here, https, and be sure to lowercase the Weekly in Sports podcast part, all one word, as you go about doing so. Hold on a second. There we go. No need to worry about everything else up here, but all you need to type in to find our website. We want to remind fans that you need to type in to find the website, https://weeklyinsportspodcast.wordpress.com. And as you could see on the area there, we have a lot up here yet, or we have a lot for you to look at, including our logo. We have our podcast announcements page. I did create a page for Sports for Beginners, but you will be able to see that eventually. The first post we posted on October 15th was a welcome, and is the first post you will see on the homepage. Welcome aboard the all-new Weekly in Sports podcast official website. Here you will be able to find out where you can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and of course, YouTube, only platforms right now for Weekly in Sports. And of course, you'll be able to check out Sports for Beginners in an area as well. Not quite yet hooked up yet for that one, but in case you're wondering where to find all the information that we post on the Sports for Beginners website, all you need to do is type in https://sportsforbeginners0.wordpress.com. All right, let's keep this party going with a couple of Halloween things. Before we came back from the break, you heard Ali's Halloween take, which you will hear throughout the course of the show. But before we get to that, my top 2 favorite Halloween movies include Spooky Buddies, which is a Air Bud franchise film, not devoted to the superstar dog himself, Air Bud. Of course, it is also a Disney film, but it is dedicated to his 5 golden retriever puppies. For those who have not seen any of the Air Buddies movies, I won't spoil who they are, but I will say that if you have seen Air Bud before, odds are you know the names of the puppies by watching the Air Buddies movie or any movie in the Air Buddies trilogy. Number 2, a little scary, but it's the scariness versus being happy and laughing. I'm talking about Disney Pixar's Monsters Incorporated. But hey, that's not spooky. That doesn't have anything to do with Halloween. Yeah, Monsters Incorporated doesn't have anything to do with Halloween, but technically it is a monster movie. But sometimes Halloween movies don't have to be creepy. We'll get to the music momentarily, but let's get back to some sports. And now I'm going to give you a look at the action on tap as of the time of this recording. And by that I mean you will know the final scores by the time the games end. Kicking things off with the NHL in an 11-game slate, they will take the ice at action will begin at 7 p.m. Eastern as the Buffalo Sabres, who are 4-4-2, take on the 5-7-0 Boston Bruins in Boston tonight. Also tonight at 7 p.m., the Calgary Flames face the Ottawa Senators. The records for both sides, Calgary is 2-8-1, Ottawa 5-5-1 as well. The Ottawa Senators will be hosting the Flames tonight. Both games can be seen on Sportsnet at Sportsnet West. It can also be heard en français on RDS, as well as on TSN 5 for those in the Ottawa area. Moving on in the 7 p.m. slate, all the way to the 7:30 p.m. slate, but keeping it at 7 p.m. for a few minutes. The 6-3-1 Stars take on the 4-4-2 Lightning at 7 p.m. Eastern from Tampa Bay. Flames and Senators from Ottawa. Bruins and Sabres from Boston in Beantown. From Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Flyers, who are coming off a wild one against the Penguins that ended in a shootout. 3-2, I believe, was the final score. I will double check that to make sure, but I'll do that on the break. They take on the 4-5-2 Nashville Predators. And speaking of the Nashville Predators, they will face off against the Pittsburgh Penguins twice next month in Sweden with an early start in one of the games and then an afternoon start. Still early start, but a little bit earlier. Or a little bit later, I should say. Give Penguins and Predators fans a time to breathe on the East Coast. One of those games is at 2 p.m. Eastern, the other at 9 in the morning Eastern time. Before we jump to the Penguins game, speaking of that, at 7:30 p.m. we got the Islanders and the Hurricanes going to battle. Hurricanes 6-3 and Islanders 4-4-1. In the 8 p.m. slot, the Penguins taking on the Wild. Penguins are 7-2-2 this season. The Minnesota Wild 3-5-3. They will host the Penguins tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Also at 8 p.m. Eastern, the Vancouver Canucks 5-6-0 take on the 3-6-1 St. Louis Blues, and the Chicago Blackhawks and Connor Bedard face off against the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets are 7-3-0, and the Blackhawks 5-3-2. At 9 p.m., the Edmonton Oilers 5-4-2 take on the 4-5-2 New York Rangers. And in the late window, at 10:30 p.m., it's the 5-3-3 Los Angeles Kings taking on the 7-3-0 Detroit Red Wings. The 8-2-0 New Jersey Devils are in the Shark Tank against the San Jose Sharks at 10 p.m. Eastern. It gets started at 7 p.m. Eastern, and it wraps up around 3 p.m. Eastern with the Kings and the Red Wings. Penguins and the Wild tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Action kicks off in Beantown, Ottawa, Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, and Carolina at 7 p.m. In other news, on the other side of the hockey rink, tonight it's the PWHL Rewind on the PWHL YouTube channel. And tonight's featured rewind is the showdown between the Montreal Victoire and the Boston Fleet. This is the second game at the Bell Center where Laura Stacey scored while falling in overtime. And here we go. Want to bring you an action-packed news night here with our new schedule. This will entail both the original 6, now known as the original 8, because the editions of Vancouver and Seattle are making their debuts. Let's take a look at our preseason first. I know that doesn't exactly matter, but let's take a look at the preseason. So, with that being said, the preseason begins next month and runs from November 13th to November 17th. That's Thursday to Monday. The two-time defending Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost will face off against New York at Code Arena at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Pacific on Thursday night. They will then play at 12 Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, and I believe that will be either 9 a.m. Pacific. I don't know exactly, but I'll double check to make sure I have that correct. With all that being said, though, that will be the second game of the New York Minnesota games in the preseason. Boston, Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa each playing each other. They will play in Montreal at the Verdun Auditorium on Saturday, November 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern, and then Monday, November 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Meanwhile, Ottawa playing at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday at TD Place. They will host the Toronto Scepters, and that will be the same timeline for the game on Monday, November 17th. Sunday, November 16th, that also features another game that's on Saturday, which is at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, going from the Pacific Coliseum. That's PWHL Vancouver versus PWHL Seattle. Seattle will be the road team. Vancouver will be the home team for the games Saturday, November 15th at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern, and then 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern from the Pacific Coliseum on Sunday. Let's take a look at the regular season by team. We're going to start with one of the expansion teams, and we're going to go to the Pacific side of Canada and go to Vancouver. They will open up, and let's go by the games at home and away. They will open up at home on Friday, November 21st at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern time, as they take on PWHL Seattle. On the next time they are home, they will play on December at 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific, from the Pacific Coast Academy, from the Pacific, I should say, Coliseum. And their games, as far as where they stand, we're only going to go as far as March 1st because they don't have too many games on the home soil in the first few months of the season. One game at home in January and a couple of games at home in December. One against Ottawa on the 16th, which is a Tuesday. One before the Christmas holiday on December 20th at 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern. That is against Montreal. They will play Minnesota at home on Saturday, December 20th. The venue and time, though, are yet to be determined, but Vancouver is expected to be the home team. On January 22nd, they will take on Toronto from the Pacific Coliseum. They will also play Toronto again on March 1st at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern, and the first time they play Toronto will be at 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern. So a little bit of night owl action for those on the east side when games are played at 7 p.m. Pacific. And you also have Boston, Ottawa, New York, Minnesota, Boston, Seattle, Montreal, and Minnesota to close things out. Now, as for those games that are TBD, Minnesota will be playing twice Vancouver in the TBD home games that Vancouver will be playing at home. The only thing about their game on April 25th against Vancouver is it will be played at the Pacific Coliseum. Now, where will April 7th be played against Boston? It remains to be seen. Let's take a look at the Vancouver road schedule. So they are at TD Place to kick it off on November 26th. November 29th, the Saturday, they will take on New York at the Prudential Center. Then they will take on Boston at the Aggenis Arena. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Boston will take on Vancouver there on December 3rd. On New Year's Eve, how's this for some PWHL early action before New Year's Eve? Vancouver will be taking on New York from the Prudential Center. They do play on the road on Saturday, January the 3rd, but they will be playing on the road against Boston. The question is, where will it be? They also have a couple other TBDs. Saturday, January 17th. Sunday, January 25th, and Sunday, January 11th. They have a couple of TBD against Toronto, Seattle, Montreal, and of course Boston. After that day that they play Boston on the 3rd, they will play on the 9th against Ottawa at TD Place at 7 Eastern. Down the line we go. They go to Minnesota, the Grand Casino Arena. The Tsonga Center is the site for March 24th. Coca-Cola Coliseum, Place Bell, Grand Casino Arena, and Climate Pledge Arena. Time to be determined on that end. But down the stretch, the Minnesota game is at 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. 8 p.m. Central. Ooh, that's 9 Eastern. So that would be 6 Pacific Time. Then they got Boston at 7 p.m., Toronto at 1 in the afternoon, 7 p.m. against Montreal, and then at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern, obviously an earlier time there in the Pacific time zone, it would be Vancouver, Minnesota from the Grand Casino Arena. So lots to look forward to. I'm currently looking at how they will fare against Seattle, their expansion team that was expanded along with them. And I also am looking at their showdowns against Minnesota and Toronto. Now, the season does officially start on Friday, November the 20th. But if you wanted to count the preseason games, don't necessarily matter. It all begins on the 13th and it runs till Monday, the 17th of November. We will be bringing you on the Sports for Beginners feed our return of select PWHL games. It worked for us in season 1. Then I decided to try and do a couple games with the Frost, just the Frost, and that didn't exactly work out. So let's see how year 2 of PWHL recap, going select PWHL games, works out. Once again, a reminder of the action on the ice tonight. In the NHL, the Penguins battling the Wild, the Sabres taking on the Bruins, Flames will battle the Senators, Stars taking on the Lightning, Predators visit the Flyers, Islanders taking on the Hurricanes, and so on and so forth. Not a busy night on the court, though, for the NBA. The WNBA has come and gone with their season. So on the court tonight, and you will probably have it, it will most likely be final by the time you hear this show. At 7 p.m. Eastern tonight, it's the Hornets hosting the Magic. Hornets are 2-2, 4 games into the season. The Magic have lost 4, but only taken 1 win this season so far. They're up at 7 p.m. Eastern. At 8 p.m., the Bucks taking on the Warriors. Warriors are 4-1. The Milwaukee Bucks 3-1 on the season. That's at 8 p.m. Also at 8 p.m., the undefeated and defending NBA champion Oklahoma City Thunder go head-to-head against the 1-3 Washington Wizards. And the undefeated San Antonio Spurs, who are at 4-0, take on the 3-1 Miami Heat at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Oklahoma City Thunder is 5-0. Going into Game 6 of their 82-game season, they are undefeated through 5 games. All right, some football talk on the way as this show continues. Plus, it's time for my top 3 favorite Halloween music. And I want to remind you as we take this break that as of the recording of this show, by the time you hear it, it will already be done, but that's okay. We will see what we can get done. Join us on Sienna T Radio for a packed show. Combine, that's right, you're getting the Cosmopolitan Culture Club and the Song Bank all in one night. You've got the Song Bank, usually a 2-hour program, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, as a 1-hour program, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, because it's 8 to 9, because at 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern, it's the Cosmopolitan Culture Club. Lots of great music on Sienna T Radio. Unfortunately, Sienna, I gotta send my regrets. I won't be able to attend. Actually, maybe I'll be there for at least the first hour, but I'll hop off about 8 o'clock Eastern. But you know what? It's okay. Still gonna be a lot of fun, I'm sure. And if you would like to check out Sienna's website, in the early going, it was siennatradio.wordpress.com, but it is now siennatradio. All right, with that being said, we're going to take what will be our second to last time out. When we return, thoughts on Buffalo. My thoughts on the Buffalo season so far. My top 3 favorite Halloween songs to listen to. Plus, we'll do it at the end of the show, but it's still to come. The shout-outs of the month for the podcast, and what you can expect on the last edition of our podcast era for season number 1 of Sports for Beginners. I should say Weekly in Sports, excuse me, which is our end of the month November program. We are taking the holidays off to regroup and recover. One thing you will be able to expect, however, despite us not talking WWE in this show, and of course us talking Halloween most of the show, I mean, most of our show is Blue Jays, so we'll talk about that later when we're starting to close out again. We'll get back to that momentarily, but you will be in the mood to hear some of the best and favorite Christmas music and movies that I personally enjoy, and maybe you do enjoy. It's all coming up on our November end of the month program, just in time for the holidays. Find out more in a break time. Right now, we'll take our second to last break and come back with my top 3 favorite Halloween songs, my thoughts on the Buffalo Bills season thus far, heading into their matchup against the Chiefs this Sunday, and of course, more shout-outs to come. We are back in just a few moments.
I wonder if I could make it. It's almost getting to 8 o'clock p.m., and I am still a few more steps away from home to get to my computer to listen to Sienna T Radio's Cosmopolitan Culture Club. The best of the best music from around the world. Can't wait. I think I made it. Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time. Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map. Hi, Scott. It's Ali here. I just wanted to mention that I'm really enjoying the show and I'm really enjoying what you're putting together. And I wanted to just say I'm enjoying being a part of it as well. So please keep up the phenomenal work and make sure you guys keep this podcast going because it really suits you well.
It's the Pens and the Wild tonight at the time of our recording on this Thursday, October 30th, 2025. And no matter when this drops, since we are recording this on the last Thursday of the month, as well as getting you set up for Penguins and the Wild, and of course other games coming up, including Game 6 of the Fall Classic, the World Series in Major League Baseball news, let me be the first to wish everybody around the world that celebrates a happy Halloween. Definitely the spookiest time of the year is here. In fact, it's practically tomorrow Where does the time go? But never mind, where does the time go? Where does the year go? The year moves quickly. All right, let's keep it going here. We're getting to our podcast shoutouts of the month coming up in just a few moments. Spoiler alert for any of those listening from the Penguins Radio Network. You might be getting a shout out in our coming segment. Spoiler alert. So stay tuned. We've been going on for quite a bit. Our Blue Jays segment might have gone a little bit longer than we'd like, but that's okay because that's the beauty of trying to cut out fluff. Not saying that the audio that we heard over the course of the show from Yesavage and the MLB Tonight crew was that, because it certainly was not, but we will see. Again, all credit to the MLB Tonight and the MLB as well as the Blue Jays and Dodgers. We'll set up Game 6 of the Dodgers and the Blue Jays just moments in our final break. But here we go. I'll kick it off with a Halloween segment to kick it off. My top 3. I mean, there are a lot of Halloween songs, right? Well, if I had to narrow it down to 3, at number 3 would be Ghostbusters. At number 2, the Halloween theme song, because there is a song about Halloween. I'm referring to This Is Halloween. And at number 1, hold for use of lyric, darkness falls across the land. The midnight hour is close at hand. Creatures crawl in search of blood to terrorize y'all's neighborhood. Yep, it's Michael Jackson's Thriller. What are the odds? Thriller, This Is Halloween, and Ghostbusters. No shock here. Unless you might be shocked at my number 3 picks. I mean, there's a ton of Halloween music that you could probably pick, but for me, my top 3 include Thriller, This Is Halloween, and of course, Ghostbusters. But Thriller, by far, is one of my favorite songs to listen to this time of year. Maybe that will change in 2026. I don't know. All right, let's drop hockey and basketball for a moment, and baseball, and go to some football. The Buffalo Bills win their first game from the bye week. That was against the Carolina Panthers. I did cover that game. Did not do a Bills post game for that game, but I did cover it. And I gotta say, what a day it was for the Buffalo Bills in Carolina. James Cook leading the way, being Mr. Cook with a couple of great plays and a nice big yardage touchdown. Also, Josh Allen playing pretty well as well. Matt Prater, I understand he is injured, so his status on whether he will play against the Chiefs remains uncertain. He also was in on the action against the Panthers with a 45-yard field goal in the first quarter, and then a 43-yard field goal in the second quarter of play. James Cook, after a field goal by Ryan Fitzgerald, which got the Panthers on the board, James Cook just cooked and cooked and cooked. We're talking about a 64-yard touchdown to, at this point, extend the Buffalo lead from 6-3 to 12-3. Unfortunately, though, Matt Prater did miss the extra point to make it 13-3, which ultimately would have led to a 10-point game for Buffalo. Right before the half, though, the Bills do score again, and this time it's Allen, and Matt Prater makes up for his missed field goal. The Bills would go on to win it 40-9, their first 40-burger of the season since week 1, when they literally sweated, and so did Baltimore in game 1. Both teams, Baltimore and Buffalo, in week 1, they sweated and each put up 40 points in that game, but it was the Bills with the 41-40 win over the Ravens. But this was the first time the Bills scored 40 points and the opposition only scored 9 points. So the Buffalo Bills, both offensively and defensively, holding the Panthers to 1 touchdown and also a field goal, which got them on the board before the start of the second half. And it was, all in all, just a great showing by Buffalo. Guys got hurt. Guys got to go up and get there. Guys that didn't start had to come off the bench and play out the game. What a day it was for both squads. for the Buffalo Bills. The Bills going into this game against the Chiefs this Sunday at 4:25 p.m. in Highmark Stadium are 5-2. The Kansas City Chiefs would have been 4-4, I should say, if they had lost, but they won, so they are 5-3 going into this game this week. The Chiefs also had a big game from Rashee Rice, his first game back from an injury a week ago, I think it was. He has since played since then, but that's going to be a guy that the Bills are going to have to really keep an eye on defensively. And that's on the defensive side of the ball for Buffalo. On the offensive side, I mean, just let James cook. But you also had some nice completions by Dalton Kincaid. I think Keon Coleman had a couple of those. Oh no, I really like this start from Buffalo. 5-2. Of course, they were 4-2 at the bye. And yeah, you know what? Only lost 2 games, and you've won 4 games going into the bye, and now you're going into the stretch run, now 1-0, the way that you started the season. Now, the question is going to be, for Buffalo, the question is going to be, first of all, can you get this win against the Chiefs? I think they can. So that would mean they are 2-0 coming out of the bye. Now, for the McDermott era, they are 10-0 coming out of the bye, unless it's just games coming out of the bye, in which case they're still undefeated. When you look at Buffalo's schedule down the stretch, they beat the Panthers. That's game 1. They are taking on the Chiefs at home this week in front of the Bills Mafia. And then you've got down the stretch for Buffalo. Then you've got Miami. Well, they beat Miami in the first week they played, which was in week 3. They beat them in week 3, 31-19. Now they'll be looking for the you-know-what in baseball next week against whatever the team the Miami Dolphins are heading into that game. Then you have the Buccaneers, Texans, Steelers, Bengals, Patriots, who they lost to before the bye. They lost that game against the Patriots in week 5, 23-20, in their rivalry jerseys, mind you, but I don't really care about that. They also did lose by 10 to the Falcons, 24-14, but down the stretch to the Patriot game, they have the Buccaneers, the Chiefs this week, the Dolphins next week, the Buccaneers the week after that, as I mentioned, the Texans then after that. And that's a primetime game on Thursday Night Football. Their last primetime game this season, to the exact. Then they will go to Acrisure Stadium, the home of the Steelers, rather. Then we see Buffalo host the Cincinnati Bengals, and all of that leading into the final week of the season. The Bills will play before Christmas, as they will play the Patriots in week 15. That's in Foxborough. Then their road finale is against the Browns before Christmas on December 21st, 2025. Then on December the 28th, just before the new year, the Bills go head-to-head with the Philadelphia Eagles. Game times between now and next week are 4:25, 1 p.m., and 8:15 p.m. And I don't know exactly when the game against the Jets at Highmark Stadium is going to be. We'll have to see where teams are heading into that week. But a reminder, the Bills beat the Jets in New York 30-10 in week number 2 after sweating, and I mean sweating, to beat the Ravens 41-40 in week 1. Speaking of the New York Jets, for a long time, until last week, the New York Jets were the only team in the NFL this season with a loss. They had yet to win a game, and they won a wild one against the Bengals on the Bengals' home field, 39-38, to grab their first win of the year after losing 34-32, 30-10, 29-27, 27-21, 37-22, 13-11, and 13-6. So you add up all those losses, those are 7 straight losses, and they head into their bye week which is this week, 1-7. Down the stretch, they have the Browns, Patriots, Ravens, Falcons, Dolphins, Jags, Saints, Patriots again, and then Buffalo. So that's down the Jet stretch. Where will the Jets' record be by the time the Jets face the Bills once again? We don't know. What we do know, as long as we take it one game at a time, we will know where the record is at for the Jets when they face Buffalo at Highmark Stadium later this year into next year. As we currently take a look at the AFC East, New England is 6-2. A loss would mean they are 6-3. A loss for Buffalo would go to 5-3. And we would go to 6-3 for the Kansas City Chiefs. A loss for the Chiefs this week would go to 5-4. And that means a win for Buffalo would mean they are 6-2. But a loss for New England this week means that they would go to 6-3. So Buffalo is hanging on by a thread for the AFC East. Miami, meanwhile, well, if you want to talk about fighting for the basement, currently the Jets are winning that battle between Miami and the Jets in the AFC East. And the Jets are on the bye right now at 1-7. The Dolphins have yet to have their bye, and it is coming up in 3 games' time. First, they will take on Buffalo and then the Commanders, and then they have the bye. But of course, they also have to take on the Ravens, who they will take on tonight to kick off this week 9. Kickoff is at 8:15 p.m. 2 more showings of Dolphins in prime time. They will take on the Steelers on Monday night in week number 15. And in week number 16, they are on Sunday Night Football against the Bengals. But first, Baltimore, Buffalo, and the Commanders, and then the bye. And then we can go down the stretch to Saints, Jets, Steelers, Bengals, Buccaneers, Patriots. All right. So what am I expecting from Buffalo? Well, pretty much a lot of the same kind of from that Ravens game, but I am expecting them to clean up a couple of things if they want to beat the Chiefs this week. Remember, I mentioned off the top of the show, the record right now in the regular season, the Bills are 4-1 against the Chiefs, winning the last 4 matchups between the Chiefs and Buffalo. They've only lost once in the regular season. Mahomes, meanwhile, hasn't lost a game in the playoffs. And speaking of that, the last time they met in the playoffs was January 26th. Was that the play? I don't think that was the playoffs. Was that? I think that was either the playoffs or that was in the regular season. Nope, that was indeed the playoffs. That was the championship game that they lost. Buffalo lost 32-29. Close game, but that also gave Kansas City their 4th straight win in the playoffs versus Buffalo. So Kansas City in the playoffs is 4-0. Buffalo is 0-4 against Kansas City in the playoffs, but they are against Kansas City in the regular season. Looking to go 5-1 if they can get a win today, if they can get a win this game. And meanwhile, for Kansas City, they are in the regular season 1-4 and 4-0 against the Bills in the postseason. All right, well, we'll see which side can take care of business in the regular season this week. Can it be Buffalo or will it be the Chiefs? So that is the question. The question is, who's it gonna be? Will it be the Chiefs or the Bills? I think it's going to be Buffalo. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Halloween features out of the way, lots of sports action out of the way. We are going to take our quick and final time out of the program, and with that, you will find out what you can expect on the November program. You will also find out what our shoutouts of the month are. All of that when we return. Stay with us.
Hi, Scott. It's Ali here. I just wanted to mention that I'm really enjoying the show and I'm really enjoying what you're putting together. And I wanted to just say I'm enjoying being a part of it as well. So please keep up the phenomenal work and make sure you guys keep this podcast going because it really suits you well.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
What a busy traffic on this Friday evening. I am almost stuck in this traffic for the last 40 minutes. And there is no way, I think, for me to get to the show. The Sienna T Radio Song Bank, which is going to start very shortly. It's one of my favorite shows. And my, what a way to wind down for the weekend. Perfect 2 hours of fun-filled music. And she has so many great features. Sound of Music, Undercover, Foreign Exchange. Name that tune. And the big wheel that she spins. For Who's That? Or Where Are We? We cannot forget about the international stage. I have never come across such a great show in my life. I think I will have to press hard on my accelerator and go as fast as I can to get home in time. Wow! Wow! Look! I made it! I am almost there! Sienna T. Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
Good afternoon, Scott. I'm really enjoying the podcast as per usual, so please keep up the podcast. You've got a great thing going. Keep it going, please. My favorite traditions, I just like to follow sports, on Halloween. I don't typically have, I do like chocolate, but I'm not really big on the traditional Halloween side. Please feel free to play this on a future episode. We'll talk soon.
Welcome back to our end of the month October show, our Halloween themed end of the month October show on Weekly in Sports. This is one of our last editions we will have before the holidays, because we will be ending our first season at the end of the month of November with the end of the month November program, but we're taking the holidays off, which is fine. We will be back with you in January in 2026 with much more content than we can haul, including updates on the PWHL, perhaps the WNBA. Before we jump more into what's coming up on the end of the month November show, as always, I am your host, Scott McGregor. Let's get into our shout-outs of the month. As I mentioned, spoiler alert to those working with the Penguins Radio Network, I recently found out you guys are bringing back the podcast, Penguins Radio Network podcasts, which means things like Penguins Live Weekly, the High Mark Coaches Show, Penguins Live Postgame. They all can be found, including the GM Show. They all can be found on the Penguins Radio Network podcasts. In a statement, the Penguins Radio Network posted confirming this, and I'm really excited to get actually into checking it all out. From as many as I can. But in a statement that they posted, the Penguins Radio Network mentioned that this is part of a collaboration with Sportsnet Pittsburgh. And this just in, we have coming up in about 2 hours time, less than about 2 hours, about 6 p.m. Eastern, according to the Penguins Radio Network, they have a radio exclusive show they call the Hockey Night Show. That begins on the X at 6 p.m. Eastern, with the pregame show following right after that at 7 p.m. Eastern, the game at p.m. Eastern, and the postgame show to follow. But back to the announcement. This was as of a day ago when they posted this, so that could be Tuesday, that could have been Wednesday, regardless. In a statement that the Penguins Radio Network posted, they said, in collaboration with Sportsnet Pittsburgh, all Penguins Live Weekly podcasts, Penguins Live post-game shows, high mark GM shows, and coaches shows presented by S&T Bank will be available wherever you get your podcasts. They also said in the announcement that this is the next step in the Penguins Radio Network's collaboration with Sportsnet Pittsburgh. I don't know about you Penguins fans, but even if I listen live, I don't know about you Penguins fans, but I'm looking forward to this. I really am. I'm looking forward to listening back to the show. In case I don't get to hear the show, I'm looking forward to it. I really am. And with that being said, moving on to our next shout out of the week, that goes to my good friend Melanie Taddeo, as her podcast that she and a group of people have started together for Connect for Life, which are one of the main reasons why Thomas, myself, and our good buddy Ali over at Broadcast Map got together and put the podcast together and got it together to get it going. She is one of the main reasons why we got this pod thing going. And if you would like in on the action, I will have a link to the Spotify edition of the Connect for Life podcast, but I really enjoy what they do. Have had to mark a couple episodes as played because I haven't been able to catch up on them as much as possible, but that's okay. Melanie, if it hadn't been for you, Mark, Sean, or anybody else that we met, Ali, myself, and Thomas, first of all, we wouldn't have really met. And second of all, this podcast, Ali's podcast, or even Thomas's podcast wouldn't have been brought off the ground if it hadn't been for you guys. Great conversations, great content on the Connect for Life podcast. Be sure you go check it out. On Tuesday, they released their season 3 trailer, along with a couple other things, but it's kind of great to check it out. So be sure you go check it out. Next up on the shout outs of the month, Spill With Me, Jenny D. That's a Pittsburgh podcast for Penguin fans, Steeler fans, sports fans of Pittsburgh and beyond. Great content. I enjoy listening to as many of them as I can. And last but certainly not least, this is a number of shout-outs because aside from our good buddy Ryan Talbot and his buddy Matt Parino running the Shout Buffalo Bills football podcast, we got a lot of good stuff coming for you from our good friends over at Locked On, including Joe Marino, host of Locked On Bills, co-host of Locked On NFL Scouting, and of course, he's got First Read going right now with somebody else. Really great content by Joe Marino, and of course, everybody that I don't want to badmouth it here, so he is associated with is what I was going to say, or rather in contact with. We're going to go with in contact. And I will say this, everybody at Locked On, Erica, Joe, Kyle, everybody does a great job. I really enjoy it. Erica, Lindsay Ayala, Hunter Hoodies, David Marsuti, and all the crew there at Locked On. They do a great job with their shows. I could go on. Erica, Lindsay Ayala, Joe Marino, Hunter Hoodies, David Marsuti, Kyle Krabs, the Madman, Tyler Rowland. You guys all do great jobs with your shows. You really do. And I enjoy it very much. Okay, folks, that will just about do it here for our episode of our Halloween extravaganza. Again, sorry, not playing any music because, well, things are careful. especially when it comes to copyright, which I'm going to mention before we drop the show here, as it is always portrayed in any sports event, especially any type of sports broadcast. I'll use the Blue Jays for an example. By the authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball, it may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. Any accounts and descriptions of any copyrighted Blue Jays baseball telecasts may not be reproduced, rebroadcasted, or otherwise distributed without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. So, copyright is a big thing. It is a big thing. And that's a big reason why we haven't been using music as of late. Well, music that includes like Halloween music, holiday music, music in general. We're trying to be as careful as possible as we can and make sure that we have in our description as much as we need so that we can avoid as much copyright as possible. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for being with us. Again, happy Halloween to all our listeners, whether you're tuning into this after Halloween, after you trick-or-treated, or after Game 6 of the World Series. Really appreciate you joining us regardless, and we will see you at our Season 1 finale of Weekly in Sports at the end of the month of November as we get ready for the holiday season. But until then, keep calm, everybody. Take it one game at a time for any sport you're watching. And as always, for all those teams that I cheer for, and you may cheer for as well, let's go Blue Jays, go Bills, let's go Pens, let's go Raptors, and for all our Toronto fans out there that love the Maple Leafs, go Leafs go. And for those who love the Seattle Kraken, let's go Kraken. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you for joining us today for your weekly dose of sports content. If you have any questions or thoughts on this show that you'd like to let our host know about, simply send us a voice message on Anchor and let us know what you think we can improve on to help us out on the show. And remember that it is not goodbye, it is until next time. See you Wednesday.
Bills are happening now. They're making it happen now. You've got the spirit, a lot of spirit, yeah. You've got the spirit. Just watch it happen